Hey guys, and we are back. Justin, Doug, All Elite Feed. Jumping right into it, I want to talk about Lance Archer's in-ring debut in AEW. Just squashing Marco Stunt in like a David versus Goliath, if you want even want to call it that. I mean, there's gift after gift out there of the release suplexes and
That was
tossing
amazing.
Marco out into the I say crowd, but the handful of wrestlers ringside as well. What were your thoughts on it?
So when Marco first came out, I'm just like, oh, well, I'm not in the mood for him. Like, I'm not the biggest Marco Stunt fan. And then when I found out that he was going to face Archer, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And man, Archer looked like $1,000,000 because he was just able to do whatever he wanted to him and just destroy him. And I thought it was a good way to debut a monster. Because he also looks, like heartless that he would just do that to someone so small and not care. And I thought it was a good debut. It also had a little Jake the Snake promo beforehand to really build it up. I thought they did things really well.
And lead right
Um,
into it. They're going to go right into the Colt Cabana match. I don't know if that's going to be next week or the week after for that TNT title tournament that we'll get to here in a little bit as well.
yeah. No, I mean, AEW, man, they're always setting stuff up too, which is so refreshing that it's not just like completely week by week. Like you have, we'll get into this as well, but Moxley and Swagger, they're already promoting that. That's 2 weeks out. It's just good to see. Also, real quick, I thought the opener was really good between Kenny Omega and Trent. I think that Kenny is just motivated to bring back the best bout machine and to prove that he's still the best wrestler in the world. And I mean, this last couple of months, his run has been crazy. So props to Kenny Omega.
Yeah, you had a great match with Trent. Um,
The the power bomb against like the field goal post, that
yeah,
was brutal.
yeah, it was inside and outside the ring too, and even to kind of divulge into. So they brought the wrestlers back ringside as well. They changed that up and they went back to what was working the first
It
week.
helps so much. It does. I don't know what it is, but man, when it's just a completely empty arena, it's just a eerie feeling, and like you can't escape any mistakes. It's just like this generic looking wrestling, and it just helps so much when other people get involved and crowds do things, and there's an entertainment aspect to it as well with Orange Cassidy, and it just works so much better.
Yeah,
I
no,
thought I thought this week's episode was way better than last week's. Like last week, I was ready to just say no more shows, just call it. But after this week, it's like, it's not bad. It's pretty good. So it's hard to say call it. But who knows? The way things are going right now.
what it kind of oddly reminded me of too, just because I know they supposedly what I read too, they're actually in Atlanta in a QT Marshall's wrestling school, possibly.
Okay, okay.
That's what I read. I don't know what the source is on that,
I,
but
I thought it was really good. Like I liked the small setting. I liked how much floor space the wrestlers had on the outside, so you could do whatever stunts or whatever you wanted to do. I thought it, and because it was such a small environment, like when there were like 10 people out there, it just kind of had that indie show feel to it. It didn't feel like just some big show in an empty arena. So
yeah,
I thought.
it was kind of small and intimate, kind of like Impact Wrestling is what it reminded me of.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I thought it was good.
Moving on, I want to get to so we got John Moxley and Jake Hager. They announced it's going to be in 2 weeks, a no holds barred, empty arena, but that's a given. But yeah, they're going to
Yeah,
go, and it's going to be for the title as well. I didn't know if they were going to be building towards double or nothing, or this is going to be a big dynamite like we talked about last week.
I just kind of feel like Moxley has a thing with the inner circle, like that. Whether he's feuding with Jericho or not, he's just gonna keep feuding with the inner circle for a while. And Hager and Moxley, it just kind of makes sense for right now. I'm not the biggest Jake Hager fan, but man, I thought the video package was done really well. It definitely makes it look like Hager is a formidable opponent for Moxley. So I'm okay with it. Uh, I like that they're going to do it on a Dynamite, and Moxley in a no holds barred match is probably going to be pretty brutal. So yeah, I think it's going to be good for a Dynamite for sure.
I know it's jumping ahead, but leaving it open with that stipulation of no holds barred, that way Moxley can get the win at the end of the day, but not have to hurt Hager. He can win by using weapons, going around the arena, the usual
Right.
basically.
Well, and he's also fighting Hager in his style of match. So if he beats him, it's like he beat him in his style of match. But and I mean, it would only be Hager's first loss, so it wouldn't really hurt him too bad. So
Yeah,
I think it works.
and this
And
possibly
for now, it's nothing major, and it just keeps the machine going. So it's nothing to really throw a fit about. I mean, even if this was the plan when if we had crowds and we weren't going through all this, like I still think that somewhat works for a Dynamite. So I'm good.
and unless this program continues after that match, that leaves Moxley's title program open for Double or Nothing if that happens in May. But regardless, is there
Yeah.
anything off the top of your head that this may somehow leads into something for his title program? I don't think they're going to do a rematch or anything like that.
No, it almost feels like Jericho and Moxley were not done. Like, as weird as that sounds, or MJF was probably going to get his nose in there. I don't know. I don't know what their plan was, because it was clear that there was supposed to be a beef between the Elite and the Inner Circle. And then after that, that separates and we move forward. And I'm not sure what the plans were, but like Jericho said, he still has a rematch clause in his contract that he can use. He just shows he hasn't chosen to use it yet, and he's fine with Hager trying to get the title. So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure where they were going to go. And honestly, that's a good thing to me. Like, I love when stuff is not so predictable, not so obvious where they're going and what they're going to do. So
And I like
good all
that.
the way.
I like that with Jericho. He's teasing the rematch clause, but not cashing it in now. But you can revisit that down the road.
Well, and what's great too is he's also really opening this thing up with Matt Hardy. I kind of feel like Jericho and Matt Hardy was going to be Double or Nothing. That kind of seems like that was where they were going. But there's that. He does still have a rematch clause with Moxley, so you could do that. Who knows what the Elite feud comes into play? Maybe he wants a piece of Adam Page or Kenny Omega. Like, Jericho could go so many ways right now.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think it's got to be Jericho and Hardy at Double or Nothing. Why would you not do that at the pay per view? But
I
yeah,
agree.
even for the title match, so MJF, it sounds like he's waiting for that title match. They're not really using him in any other program or feud right now. It sounds like he's waiting for that, and he's dropping that every once in a while. How he wants the title.
Well, and it's tough too, right? Because this TNT tournament that they have coming up, like with MJF, I just don't think he can get out of his house. Like, he's in New York right now, so I just think he's stuck. I think that mostly like SCU are stuck. I feel like just a lot of guys just aren't available to even work, so they kind of were going around that and seeing how they can make things happen there. So I don't know. Like, I know a lot of people are upset on certain guys are in this tournament and other guys aren't, but I really have a feeling that it's all that they could come up with who's available to work. So people have to keep that in mind as well.
Now, you had mentioned the TNT tournament. That's actually what I want to talk about next. They announced this thing, I think, just last night on AEW Dark, and they've
Yeah.
announced the quarterfinal match. There's going to be 8 guys in it. Yeah, so you got Cody versus Shawn Spears, Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara, Dustin Rhodes versus Kip Sabian, Lance Archer versus Colt Cabana, and there's numerous different ways you can go about this of what the finals is going to be. When I first looked at it, I was thinking maybe this is Darby Allin's way in to get maybe a mid-card title. But another way I looked at it even tonight was they're already starting the feud. They've had this feud in the last month with Cody and Lance Archer. Maybe this is how they could just add fuel to the fire of that feud and throw a title in the mix as well.
Well, and now the way that they ended the show, you're now throwing Darby into that match as well, because now it could be Darby and Cody in setting that up as well. So there's just a lot of different directions that they could go. And likely we probably will see Darby and Cody, and then we'll see who faces likely Archer, I would think.
Right.
So it would make sense. And then if Cody wins the whole thing, it makes sense because Cody can't win the world title, but he can win the TNT title.
That's right.
So, and to me, it just is it's so up Cody's alley. You know, he was a fan of WCW. He's like, his dad was a big part into that. TNT, like the legacy of it. It just makes sense that the first TNT champion would be Cody, but who knows?
Last night we had the joy of catching Dark Side of the Ring with New Jack, and that there's, I mean, everybody, you know, if you follow wrestling in the last 20 years, whether you're hardcore or casual, you probably have ran across New Jack in some form or another. Whether you've seen a clip of him or just heard of a story of, hey, this crazy story back in ECW. But even more so, you and I haven't really talked about it, but I know we'd mentioned on Twitter, Smoky Mountain Wrestling and the footage from there. I knew he had a brief run there with Mustafa, but actually when they actually showed all the footage last night and broke everything down, it was some crazy groundbreaking stuff that they were doing with him.
Oh, I mean, I had no idea the racist stuff that he was saying. Like, oh man. And not only that, like telling OJ great job, 2 down. Like, what? Like, that's nuts. Like, you could never do that now. And I just there were a couple of times where I literally like watched with my mouth open. Like, I could not believe that this was actually happening in a wrestling ring. Which one did you watch that really like kind of make you feel a little uneasy?
There was 2 times where I literally turned my head. One was mass transit, as you would expect.
Yeah.
And then I can't think of the guy's name, but 04, the last scene that they show with he's literally stabbing the guy in the ring.
Oh.
Yeah.
Even when he hit that old man in the head with that baseball bat with the barbed wire.
It's brutal. I remember seeing that when that thing went viral too.
Like, swinging for the fences like he's trying to hit a home run. Just beating the piss out of this man. And I've heard New Jack was a bounty hunter. I've heard he's definitely killed people. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that is the truth. He is just all types of crazy. I do think, though, that I heard one point, and I do think it might be somewhat true, is that the legacy of New Jack, it might be bigger than New Jack itself, and New Jack wants to hold on to that. So if you went up to New Jack and been like, man, did you really try to do da-da-da-da? He's going to be like, hell yeah, I did. I'm trying to cut that dude up. You know what I mean? And so I think that he buys into the fact that everyone thinks he's crazy and knows he's crazy. And so he's all in. And he might not be as crazy as presented. Because, I know fans have come up to him, got their picture taken with him, and it's been a good experience. Like, you're not literally just going to meet a total prick. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, though. That's crazy to me. And, like, part of me, and I don't know, I feel like Paul Heyman had a little something to do with that mass transit incident. Like, I don't know if he told New Jack to just totally go off on him and just totally do whatever he wanted to him, but to me, there's something about that. Like, the fact that they booked that kid when he had no experience, and just Paul was a shady dude, man. Paul was a really shady dude, and a lot of people don't want to admit that, but that was the truth. And the fact that he tried to really cover him up in the courtroom and all that stuff, like, I just feel like Paul had a little bit more to do with that than what was mentioned.
And that's the thing is, when you ask New Jack about any of the incidents, no remorse. He's like, he doesn't care. He brushes it off.
Laughs.
Yeah.
Let's talk about mass transit.
Yeah.
Like, and then I listened to the podcast, because right now what they're doing on Grillin' JR is with Conrad Thompson. He's interviewing the creators of Dark Side of the Ring, and they do a podcast over each episode. So I listened to the New Jack one today, and they said one thing that they didn't really get to cover was just how destroyed that whole family was because of that situation. Like, basically, mass transit, Eric or whatever his name is, he got super depressed, and he basically ate himself to death. And he tried to get a gastric bypass surgery or whatever, but he was already way too bad a shape to get it for it to work, and he died in the process. The dad is dead. The brother went to jail. He witnessed the whole thing too, and the brother went to jail. And ever since he's gotten out of jail, he's just been on a crime spree. Like, the whole entire family was destroyed because of that incident. And New Jack laughs about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's crazy to me. The wrestling business was such a wild, crazy time that is just now starting to really be put out in the forefront. I mean, people have heard stories and things like that, but now we're getting more details of what really happened. It really baffles me sometimes of all the stuff that went on.
When you look at ECW, is there any memories involving New Jack that stands out to you, whether it be a match or a spot, anything?
I mean,
besides what you saw last night.
Stone Cold had the glass break. New Jack had the gunshot. Like, when that music hit, you just knew that it was on. Natural Born Killers. He comes out with a trash can full of weapons, and it is just a total war in there. And the music plays the entire match, just loops it. And that's so rare in wrestling. I don't know if we really have ever seen that. That really stands out to me. And of course, the balcony stuff. The balcony dives. He was doing that before Jeff Hardy was doing it, and he was doing it at such an extreme height, and for like nothing. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't even be on pay-per-view. It would be like an ECW house show, and he's going to jump off a 15-foot balcony. He was just a different cat, man. Different cat. But you remember liking him because he was so fearless, and he would do such crazy stuff. Like, he there was nothing about him that you thought gimmick. Like, he was real, man. He was real.
Yeah, they make a great point about the theme song. It's having it play throughout all of his matches, blasting through the arena, Natural Born Killers. And then you had, like, his main gimmick seemed like it was the guitar. And every time that guitar, when he hit somebody with it, exploded with the powder inside of it.
Yeah.
Just the effect that it had and what you saw visually.
And it's like, you know, in ECW, like, you get the chairs and you get the crutches and the guitars, but man, they get like forks and cheese graters and stuff like that. And I mean, when I was like, 16 years old watching this stuff, I was like, oh God, that's bad. Or a pizza slicer, a pizza cutter, like stuff like that. It was just like, whoa. And then what's crazy to me too is how he tried to kill Vic Grimes by throwing him off the scaffold. And really, he threw him in the 100% perfect spot, because the way that he threw him, his leg just basically bounced off the rope, killed all momentum, and he just hit the mat. And he was fine, like, not fine, but you know what I mean. Like, he could have been dead. So that's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Do you remember reading about when they did the angle with Carlito and John Cena? And supposedly New Jack had reached out to WWE saying how he wanted to be the guy who was Carlito's sidekick. Did you ever remember reading about that?
No.
I remember reading about that, and that's...
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine if that actually panned out back in, was it 03, 04? If he would have came back, and it would have been New Jack and Cena?
Just, like, killed Cena on national TV. just to be over. Like, no matter what happens afterwards, like, I killed John Cena. You know what I mean? Like, that dude is nuts. And the thing is too, is you go back and you look at his childhood, awful, right? I mean, dad stabbed his mom, dad shot his mom. Like that's the type of lifestyle that he grew up in. So it definitely, he definitely had it tough. And I just think it's crazy that like Jim Cornette basically was just like, just go piss off white people.
Yeah.
And he would say the most crazy crap. But so much of me appreciates that because it's real and it cuts deep, and that's what gets real heat, right? Like that's the stuff where it's just like, oh, that's brutal, and only certain people can handle it. Today's cancel culture, he would have been out of there a long time ago, but people all look back at that and are they're not offended, and if they are offended, they're ridiculous. Like it was just part of that era, part of that time.
And then next week we have the Brawl for Honor. That's actually one I'm looking forward to, if not the most, as far as something that's not so like down, sad, hits you so emotionally, like a Benoit story or Owen Hart, which is later in the season. Brawl for Honor is going to be the fun one this season. And I'm curious to see who actually they're all going to be talking to next week.
Well, it looked like they're talking to Vince Russo, Jim Cornette, and the Godfather, Bart Gunn. It looked like D'Lo again. Those are the ones I picked up on.
Yeah. You say Jim Ross as well?
I don't know. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I think he was on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was on that one.
Jumping
And
over
I
to
have that like they were upset, like how they had booked certain people to look, and then all of a sudden it's all out the window because the guy knocked out a guy that wasn't supposed to get knocked out. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it'll be interesting how they go about that.
Jumping over to the side of mixed martial arts, we have Dr. Dana White every day talking about how UFC 249 is going to happen on April 18th. Tony and Khabib. It's still going to happen, but I think we're at the point now where Khabib himself is saying, I can't get out of Russia. This fight is not going to happen. I cannot fight. And then you have Tony Ferguson, who wants him stripped of the title. I don't know if he really wants to take the Justin Gaethje fight, but with all this craziness, what should Tony do? Should he take a fight for X amount of money or just wait for Khabib no matter what?
That's tough because Tony is old. Tony's like 36 years old, 37, something like that. He's only fought once in like 2 years or something like that. Like, I kind of feel like Tony needs the fight to keep the momentum, but uh, it this fight should not be canceled. This fight should be postponed. You know what I mean? It's nobody's fault. It is something the whole world's dealing with. It's just an unfortunate situation. But I mean, if you can do Tony and Gaethje and Tony beats Gaethje, like there's no doubt about it, he's getting the next shot, in my opinion. I think that if Tony decides to wait for Khabib, it wouldn't surprise me if Conor got the Khabib fight then. Because at the end of the day, the UFC is about loyalty and what have you done for me? And I don't know. I feel like any fighter that's willing to fight right now, Dana's going to take care of them for the rest of their career. He is going to put them over like $1 million and all that. I feel like any fighter that puts doubt into cards or backs out of fights, he is just going to put them on blast. So I don't know. I do think Khabib can make the fight happen. I think that they could absolutely get him out of Russia. I think the issue is, though, is Khabib is seeing the news and seeing everyone say, stay at home, don't put your family at risk, don't put yourself at risk, blah, blah, blah. And yet he's supposed to fight. I just don't think he feels comfortable with the situation. And I don't blame him. So,
and where can they hold this fight? Because Dana keeps saying he's got 4 or 5 locations. Where is that going to be?
Call Tony Khan. Because he's right now, he's about the only one that's pulling it off.
Well, I know as of midnight tonight, they're shutting down Florida.
Right.
So tonight they were supposedly, like I said, they were in Georgia. So
I just, And that's my thing too, is like if you literally only have one or two states that agree to this, like you're probably doing something wrong and it probably shouldn't be done. Like I understand that Dana wants to keep the train rolling, but so did the NBA. And so did the Major League Baseball and every other sports league and everything. Everybody wanted to keep the ball running. Concerts wanted to keep going. Like everybody wanted to keep the ball rolling and do what they normally do. But at the end of the day, nobody can right now. And the UFC is no different. WWE is no different. I think AEW, they're no different, but I think that they're making the best shows out of a crappy situation. So, but if AEW tweeted out right now, from this day forward until further notice, we are not doing shows, I would be fine with it. Because at the end of the day, we're all on hold right now.
Yeah.
All.
And as you know, this stuff changes every day as well.
Every day. Honestly, if I'm Dana, I'm trying to get John Jones and Dominic Reyes booked before freaking John Jones gets arrested again.
Yeah, you saw what he got off with the other day. Yeah, no, you saw what he got off with the other day. Yeah.
Justin, what do you think about the punishment?
Well, that's what I mean. Is like, say that we're basically going to be isolated the next 2 months. Let's just say, just hypothetically, we don't know that for sure right now. Because this is the harsh truth about it is the UFC has, 600 plus fighters on the roster. Who's the one guy who got in trouble during this time? The one guy. The guy who's got a track record of doing it. Yeah. So we'll see.
I mean, he admitted that he has an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. But, man, when you get 4 days house arrest when the whole world is quarantined and basically on house arrest, what kind of message are you sending to him? Like, he has to take a out-of-patient rehab thing, like, what, through a webcam? This is a joke. This is an absolute joke. And, I mean, honestly, I feel like if he loses, the UFC is so done with him. They just need that O to fall. And, I mean, I know he lost to Matt Hamill technically, but he never lost to Matt Hamill. They just need him to lose, and then they can just move on. Because John is such a screw-up. He's just such a screw-up. And there's just nothing that gets to him to the point to where he knows he needs to change. So, and like even if you listen to that the body cam footage, John's very emotional at the end. Like he's crying, asking for his window to be rolled down. Like he's very respectful to the cop the whole way through. Like he wasn't in any way like not cooperative. It's like he's been arrested so many times he understands what to do. But like you can tell he's sad, and he was talking about how he has no short-term memory because he's punched in the face. Talks about his family. One of his kids has dyslexia. So like, I don't know. I just feel like John fighting. He really needs to figure out his life before fighting is over. Because if John Jones does not have any fights, and nobody cares about him, and nobody's there to see him in press conferences and ask for his autograph, and the party is over, I feel like John Jones is a very dangerous person to himself and to others.
That's well put. I mean, at the end of the day, we wish the best for the guy, but it's like once you see this happen again and again and again, what's it going to take at this point? And that's what they have to figure it out, and it's got to come with. That's why we're all looking for this harsh punishment, not because we're going to get joy out of it, but we just want to see him do better for good at the end of the day.
Well, and it's also like I don't want the whole division on hold because of him anymore. Like we have Santos, we have Reyes, we have Jan, we have Anthony Smith. Like we'll just move on. It is what it is. The guy just he just can't be a professional. He cannot be reliable. And that's just basically John in a nutshell. And you know what's so crazy too is like I remember John when he got the word that he was going to face Shogun for the title. So innocent, so happy. He was just like the top guy, and he finally got his opportunity. And man, when he won that belt, he has just been a total disaster, just a total mess. And I don't know. And what's bad too is I feel like John's whole inner circle makes excuses for him. His agents, the Kawa brothers or whatever, his brothers. Like there's nobody there that really just his coaches. There's nobody there that just really lays into John and lets him know like you've got to change, dude. You've got to step up. I don't know.
Speaking of moving on, I don't know if you're aware or not. It is WrestleMania weekend coming up. So they got this show in the can that they taped last week, and I've tried to avoid spoilers just because I'm going to watch it at the end of the day. Running down, I'm not going to run down.
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I'm not going to run down 16 matches here. Supposedly there's going to be 16 matches between 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to bring out the big four. To me, it's Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre for the WWE title, Goldberg versus Roman Reigns for the Universal title, which not going to be Reigns now. The rumor that it's not really Strowman.
It's supposed to be Strowman, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing I've heard, unless it's somebody different. But like I said, I've tried to avoid spoilers.
Before anything, if I told you, would you be interested in watching a Bill Goldberg versus Braun Strowman empty arena match? What is your answer?
Well, that's the thing is, so when I'll finish off the other two I want to bring up too is Edge and Randy Orton. Edge and Randy Orton is really the match that's had the best build that people are mostly invested in. And then The Undertaker and AJ Styles.
Yep.
So I just want to focus on those four.
A boneyard match.
Oh, yeah. But I think it's going to be.
So I think the boneyard match could actually be good if they actually fought at a location in a graveyard. Like, not an actual graveyard, but something built up like a graveyard.
And I think that's what they're going to do is what it seems like, according to the promos that they shot on Monday.
Right. Which is kind of like the Final Deletion type feel or something like that. I feel like that could be very entertaining and cool. I feel like that they need to have more like how Cena and Eddie Guerrero had their street fight on SmackDown. That was a cool match. I've watched that multiple times. I really enjoyed that match. I feel like that they need stuff like that. You cannot just go in there and just an empty ring and just wrestle. It's terrible. It's WrestleMania. Like, I feel like this is such an insult to WrestleMania's history, and it's showing Vince McMahon's true colors about greed or just how bad a shape the company is in. If he has to proceed with this, there's just no way this should happen. No way.
Well, that's probably part of the curiosity factor, right? So when we first tuned into Raw or SmackDown, actually, that first week, and you were I tuned in. I really had quit watching Raw and SmackDown on a weekly basis, but I wanted to tune in when this all started a few weeks ago just to see what it was going to look like and how it was going to play out on TV. And I think a lot of people, or at least the hardcores, are somewhat intrigued just for the curiosity factor. Is this going to be a train wreck? How is this going to come off? Even though you've seen it on Raw and SmackDown, but this being WrestleMania, and how are they going to make this seem like such a big deal with an empty arena and no fans?
And what I don't like either is, okay, if I told you we have a year to figure out how we're going to make WrestleMania special with no fans, and we can try to figure this thing out. They're trying to figure this out in 2 weeks. So there's no way that it's just going to be amazing and great and all this stuff. It's just going to be such a wreck. For me as a fan, and WrestleMania is such a big, special moment of the year, I feel like that this is just pissing all over its legacy for money and greed. And it just disgusts me. That's why I don't know if I'll watch Um, and then on top of that, they're gonna have certain outlets charge $60 on pay-per-view. Like, come on. Like, why? First of all, you should be embarrassed that you're even putting this on. And then you have the audacity to charge money for it. Like, what? Like, what? There's just such a disconnect with the WWE that I just don't understand them anymore. I really don't.
Going through those big four matches, are there any predictions you have between, or how, I don't know, maybe how the matches might not play out with Taker and Styles? Let's start with that one in the graveyard match.
Well, I just don't see any way that Taker loses a boneyard match. I think that's his yard. He'll win. I think Edge is going to beat Randy Orton. I think I don't know about Drew McIntyre and Brock. I felt like, if this was actually WrestleMania and they really had a crowd and all that, I feel like Drew McIntyre would have won. But now I don't know. And then what other one is there?
Goldberg and Reigns / Strowman.
I feel like they want the title off Goldberg, and I feel like Goldberg doesn't want to do this anymore. He just wanted to get paid the Mania payday. So I think Strowman's going to win.
That's an interesting point about McIntyre and Lesnar. You wonder if they actually want to prolong that to maybe like a SummerSlam, and then that's where McIntyre gets his payoff. If at that time, hopefully we have everything somewhat back to normal and you have crowds.
They're at the point where they don't have any place to film anymore. So they're thinking, I've read they're considering canceling all shows, which, do it. For the love of God, let those guys rest, especially the WWE. Because, in AEW, I mean, these guys only wrestle one day out of the week. Like, here, it's a totally different ball game. And so finally give those guys a long break. You know what I mean? So.
And it's not even a thing where Reigns is missing Mania. Reigns is off the road until this thing clears up, is what it seems like.
Yeah, I agree. And he doesn't seem that happy about like how things have been handled either. Because he was talking about how, he has a lot of thinking to do about what he wants to do with his life and how he wants to be treated. And it's just a lot of thinking. Like it's almost like he wanted to imply a lot more, but he couldn't. He's kind of on the hush. So, I don't know. I mean, yes, he signed a 5-year deal, so he's stuck there. But, having one of your top guys being unhappy and questioning you putting their health at risk cannot be comfortable backstage. And another thing that I think people need to be prepared for is, let's say WWE cancels shows for a while. I think layoffs are coming. Like, I think wrestlers are going to start getting released. The ones that they don't use and just been paying to sit at home, I don't think they can afford to do that anymore. And I think they feel comfortable enough with AEW's roster kind of full. So I kind of expect a massive layoff soon for a bunch of wrestlers.
Again, to the feedback, we actually have some feedback. First one coming from Sports Atwood. Thoughts on New Jack episode Dark Side of the Ring, which I know we covered. But actually, one thing I wanted to ask you, do you watch the After Dark special that airs after the actual episode? Yeah, I did too.
I wonder why Mustafa was not on that documentary. That didn't make sense to me. To have D'Lo but not Mustafa. That's another thing, too. I had no idea D'Lo had anything to do with New Jack and Smoky Mountain. And I didn't know that D'Lo had been in the business that long when he went to the WWE. So that was an interesting thing to find out about.
Was D'Lo part of like his goon squad in Smoky Mountain?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's what I picked up from that.
D'Lo was like the guy that was able to get his ass kicked. Like, Mustafa and New Jack had to look like $1 million and tough and all that stuff, but D'Lo was like the one that, hated, but like they were cool with him getting beat up.
And then he would take on that same role in Nation of Domination when he came in the WWE as well.
Yeah, which I mean, I'm sure they saw that footage and that's why he got the job where he got and all that stuff. So, because usually a lot of times some of their best stuff is stuff they've stolen. So,
The next one comes in from Caesar Mania 1987. Do you hope Sheeta becomes the next AEW Women's Champion very soon?
Uh, I mean, I would much rather have her champion than Nyla Rose. But I feel like that division just needs more time. I just feel like the division needs more time, and there's got to be like a good 5 or 6 solid wrestlers that any one of them can be champion, and I don't think they're there yet. So, I mean, I would be fine with it. Trust me. If Nyla didn't carry the belt, then I think that's a good decision. But
You can tell that they're pushing her right now, and they're trying to feature her almost every week. And like you're
yeah,
saying, they just need to build up that division. I think they need to sign someone that has some kind of name value to bring more attention and more value to the division.
they got to do whatever they got to do to get Tessa. Whenever Tessa's free, they gotta write the blank check to get Tessa, because Tessa in AEW to me is a whole nother ball game. Like, she brings so much credibility to the women's division. She would bring so much credibility to the women's title. I think Tessa's a must for AEW.
Let me ask you to hold that thought. The next feedback we have is Chainer 2111. Should Hikaru Shida be AEW's Women's Champion as soon as possible, which we just covered? And like you were just talking about, follow-up question, when does Tessa finally come to AEW?
I think Tessa's contract actually just goes till the summer, and then after that she's free agent. And I could really see Impact just breaking the bank to keep her, but I just think it's a poor decision if she does do that. Like, she's done literally everything she can do in Impact. She's the world champion right now, for crying out loud. There's just not a lot left, and I think that it's her time now to step into either the WWE or Impact, whichever one she decides to go to. But not Impact, AEW. But I just don't see the benefit of staying in Impact.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. She's champion right now. It's all downhill from here once she drops that title. Yeah, she can go back and regain it, but I don't think they're going to be going that direction. I think it was just the quote unquote moment of them crowning a woman for a world champion.
And I think they're also having her win matches right now and having her defend the title a couple of times, so it doesn't look like some joke title run.
Right.
But I don't think that this is the 5-year plan. You know what I mean? So I just think that they just need to accept the fact that she's gone when her contract's up, and then hopefully Tessa makes the right decision. I will say this, though. I thought Marty was for sure going to leave Ring of Honor, and he resigned. So you just never know. Never know what's going to happen.
I thought about that too, and it's funny, these kind of package deals that these guys get. And it's funny you bring up Marty, because he's got power, he's got creative control in Ring of Honor now. So it just kind of depends the package deal that they want to give her, or whoever that we may be talking about with staying with, I guess, a lower tier company.
We're going to name the company Tessa Wrestling.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to really spring everything they have. Because like I said, it's such a bad idea if she resigns.
Well, when anybody talks about which women do you want to sign, it's always Tessa, no matter who you ask, it seems like. She's going to get paid a lot of money, whether it be AEW or WWE. She can have the dream match with Charlotte, or she can come to AEW, and that would build the division around her if that happens.
See, and for me, like, I really want to see her versus Becky and Sasha, because they're like around the same height. Like, Charlotte will tower over Tessa. So, like, those stare downs and all that stuff, it'll look not so pleasing, I guess you would say. But no, I understand the Flair versus a Blanchard and all that stuff, but I want her to go to AEW. I really do.
You guys, I want to actually bring up our Patreon. We just launched today on April 1st, not April Fools. We've actually launched it today. You guys check it out at patreon.com/alleelitefeed. there's 3 different levels on there, 3 different tiers, where you have full gear, double or nothing, and all in. We played off the AEW verbiage to check out all the different levels. But it's all about me and Doug actually being a lot more interactive with you guys. You'll check out, there's features going to be the All Elite Rewind, where we can go back and we can review past WWE, WCW, ECW, UFC, anything in pro wrestling, MMA related. We'll go and review an event, be interactive with you guys, get your guys' feedback, even plug your stuff if you got your own Twitter, YouTube channel, website. Other features like All Elite Free for All, where it's almost like a Q&A session, again, involving you guys and the patrons who sign up with this. And even if you go to the top tier, we'll actually interview you to be the topic of the discussion if you go with the All Elite tier. So, like I said, go ahead, or the All In tier, go and check it out at patreon.com/All Elite Feed. Follow myself at All Elite Feed on Twitter. Follow Doug at All Elite Doug 21. Subscribe, like, share, ring the bell on YouTube. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next week.